Greetings and welcome to episode 24 of Unlocking the Matrix. Seems almost ironic in a way that it happens to be episode 24 because that is 2 12s, and it's also the 150th video I have made. So I thought, had a shower just now, and like a lot of you, water holds memory and you go with the flow. The information will just come while you're in the shower. So that's formed the basis of what I'm about to say. Now, in the spiritual world, and on the spiritual path, it is always spoken about doing the inner work, which is all very well if you understand fully and have an understanding of what that actually means. It's like everything in life. You can just sit there in front of the idiot box and be entertained with mindless, meaningless shit, or you can put the effort in to find out what is real and what is imposed upon us. By doing the inner work, what that actually means is not trying to wrap new ideas around existing ones, but to start with a blank piece of paper in your mind and just follow down different paths and going with your gut feeling of what feels right. You need to use both the logic and the compassion to find this out. Now, darkness will always work on the principle of the Victorian jelly beans. Nice bright colours, shiny coating. But of course, it's laced with arsenic. And that is how everything works with darkness. It will never appear in its true form, because people aren't going to fall for it that way. So let's take the bull by the horns here, shall we? Let's look at Christianity as a representation of all the religions. You've got Saul, who is also Josephus Flavius. Now you'll notice the similarity if you look into the two stories, and you'll see that just like Josephus did, he's a Jew who becomes a Roman. He does a U-turn, and he's also chasing this Jesus of Gamaliel around. Now you've got Saul, who again, same thing, does a turn and then does a turn again. You'll find the same thing with the pseudoscience, the religion called astronomy today, the heliocentric lie of Copernicus. It means to turn and turn again. I mean, to circle and circle again. That's the figure of 8. You're kept in an eternity of lies and deception, and you'll never find the truth while you're trying to dress things up around this. I mean, let's make this crystal clear for everybody. It is a Christus, a charisma. It is something within inside each and every one of you. This fictional fish story of this shepherd, which is a reference to Aries, who then becomes a fisher of men, which is a reference to Pisces. And I refer you to Santos Bonacci, Mr. Astrotheology, to look into more on this, because you do need to understand the workings of the flesh and blood body, and also the spiritual aspects, why we have the 4 rivers, the 4 fluids inside us, the 12 entry points into the brain, all 12 astrological signs are within the human body. We are a series of 3s, we are a series of 12s, we are far more than flesh and blood. And this ridiculous, and almost, well, it's an insulting term to even use the name Jesus. The first thing to do is throw that to one side. The clue is in the language we speak, the Angolish language, because that is exactly what each and every one of you are. You are gods, you are angels of earth, but you are fallen angels while you are falling for these silly angles. And you're never going to find the truth, you're never going to unlock the true self within yourself while you are falling for these stupid stories that make absolutely no sense. They do, all these so-called miracles do make sense once you start looking into this, all of this. It's the same with the flat earth theory. It's ridiculed because it is not just about the shape of earth, it goes beyond that because it opens up so many more questions. It leads on to this mud flooding, this biblical story of the flood, which incidentally is told in at least 275 worldwide creation stories everywhere in the world. There is evidence to be shown everywhere. The next video I'm making will highlight more on the local effects of this mud flood. But going back onto topic here, we are continuously being fooled by these jelly bean ideas. Darkness will always use a part truth which will be overlaid with two twists of lies laid on top. So whilst there is an archetypal Isis, and there is nothing wrong at all with following that idea and living up to that archetype, that's a very good thing to do. It's the way it has been interwoven, not only by Josephus Flavius, but Francis Bacon with the King James Bible, aka William Shakespeare, because he's a spear shaker. These are all references that go back to this false sun worship. As I've explained in the previous two videos, think of it like a mobile that lights up all these stars and things on a ceiling, the night light for children, the equivalent of the moon. The light is not coming from the ceiling at all, it is coming from Earth. And look at the human body. You have two souls on the bottom of your feet. You've got roots for your trees, your hair. There's no coincidence. We follow the same pattern, the same design as so much else. This saying about all eyes are upon us is very true. I'm going to refer you to Yudi Baz as well, with her channel Nikon P1000, which zooms in and shows you the moon, and also Martin Leaker, Flat Earth British channel, and many other channels. Why, if you've got these eclipses where it looks like the sun, the solar disk and the lunar disk are exchanging places, whether it be energetically or a projected light coming from above, coming from the North Pole, from the black sun in the middle. You look at the apple and the seeds in the middle, there's your black sun. It's projected upwards onto this firmament, this ceiling. The Jewish menorah is an inversion of these firmament levels. It's not just one. And of course they act like magnifying glasses. This is why the sun appears to be this ridiculous idea they've put about being an exploded star that's 93 million miles away while we're spinning around it, and of course that is also spinning around something else. As was explained in the film Men in Black, 1500 years ago, everybody knew that the Earth was the centre of the universe, and 500 years ago everybody knew the world was flat. There is a new theory, this concave theory, which is quite literally turning things inside out. Yes, there is, you can demonstrate things like avocados and eggs to try and prove this, but it doesn't feel right at all to me. And I would say with everything, Go with your gut feeling. Forget about everything you've been told. I mean, you have an education assist STEM. It is a STEM of assist. The whole point of education is to weed out the ones that are smart enough to work out what is going on. You'll notice also there's a lot of talk about politicians being puppets. Well, you've only got to look at all the negative qualities such as ego. There's no way these demons are going to be hidden in the background. They love being in the spotlight. They love the accolades. Just look at who gets the knighthoods, who gets the MBEs, who gets the OBEs, for example. Oh, they just love their ceremony. This is why the Queen walks amongst all these poppies and always on a red carpet. It's a reference to a sea of blood. They are your demons. All these politicians, these royal families, these banking dynasties, they're using human form. Some of this is going to be difficult for a lot of you to get your head round, but that's down to you to look into these things. Don't just look at one source either. Look at 20 or 30 sources and make your mind up from that. You want another analogy about the feeding the 10,000? Well, it's feeding the mind. You can have a gutful of it, because the Bethlehem is the house of bread. I mean, think of it, it's two fishes. That's the symbol of Pisces. It's also the Christian symbol of this fake sun worship as well. I'm sorry if this offends everybody. Well, tough shit, because truth is truth whether you like it or not. But it's becoming more and more apparent when you start joining these other parts to this. Now, there is a lovely new series that has started on YouTube, and it's talking about the Indo-European peoples, which stretched all the way from Japan. There is photographic evidence of this. Look on John Levi's channel. You've got the Cherokees, which were very light-skinned as well. That's because Cherokee basically is a corruption of words of cherubim, which is a type of angel, and Ki, which is an old name for earth. They are angels of earth. And can you imagine, if you have not looked into this, of such a thing as Cherokee Gothic building styles, for example? These so-called, I don't like to use the word Indian because they're North American tribes, and that's this ridiculous thing with this Columbus story, thinking he'd gone to India, trying to go round the world. Yes, you can go east and west. There's plenty of people who've done it, but how many have actually gone across the North Pole, down the other side and back up? You'll find that nobody has done that. And of course, you're not going to be allowed to go anywhere near the Arctic or the Antarctic. There's a reason for that, because they don't want you to find the island of Friesland that is on the old maps, the land masses round the North Pole. Whether they are above water or below the water now is open to speculation, because you certainly can't trust Google Earth, to tell you the truth, either. I watched an interesting one yesterday about how Google is manipulating things. It is basically in the hands of the CIA and selling information to the highest bidder. And like everything else, it is not in our best interests. But you are all gods and goddesses once you understand and realise this, and you have this inner standing and this belief in yourself and not following something or somebody else. You all have this ability within you. I forgot to mention the star of the show again, once again, is the big maple behind me. This beautiful afternoon. There's a lot of speculation about what this physical reality is. Well, you've only got to look round. It is beautiful, but it is not eternal. Everything goes through a cycle of life and death and rebirth in this reality that is controlled by something called time. Now, a lot of you that I've spoken to personally have been subject to demonic attacks, dark energy. That is purely because we are in a world that is dictated to by time. There is only the present. in any other reality, but it is played out in the same way that you can't take the cake out of the oven too early or too late. Darkness is stepping up because it is frantic, and it is trying to take as many down as possible. But it has lost, and you'll see the signs where it is starting to fall apart all around you if you look carefully. Things are falling apart. More and more people are starting to come in at so many different angles to get to the point of why everything has happened. And this is where the geometry comes in. If you think of yourself as the center of a circle, the center point, that is exactly where you want to be. But you also need to see these 360 different angles. You'll see the same thing from a different angle, but you need to see all of them to achieve this. Because it also then allows you to see things from other people's perspective. They're on the edge. We are basically copies of atoms. You are the solid part around you. The energetic field around each and every one of us is this invisible part. And of course you come into contact with other ones. You can think of it as like we're in giant hamster balls, basically, as a pretty good analogy. And if you are to see beyond this physical reality, you'll see that we're actually packed in like sardines. If you were to bring every soul back into a physical body, we would be standing shoulder to shoulder, and we would be invading each other's personal space. So yes, there is a very much greater unseen world that the mind and the heart can connect to, but obviously the physical body is stuck within this physical realm. But look where your imagination can take you, where you can go with it. It is not limited by time, it is not limited by physical dimensions. How this is actually going to play out, I can't even tell you. I cannot even formulate the words. I'm not allowed to. I have an idea, but if I try and put it into words, it just won't come, and a lot of you will find this as well. You'll just instinctively know when something is right. It will feel right. Your best guide is within yourself, your gut feeling, and doing things from the heart. That is always going to be your best guide, not following something else or because somebody else has told you. Yes, do listen to other people, do listen to different things, look into different things. The more you do look into things, the easier this all becomes. So that's the end of this episode. I thought I'd just drop that. I wanted to make this slightly more special, slightly more of a bombshell, really. To the dark side, I will be seen as probably one of the most evil and feared beings there is, because photographs, for example, were called likenesses. Now, a photograph, the energy of the soul that is captured in that photograph is not constrained by the concepts of time. It shows the current energy. So yes, I can look into the eyes of a member of the royal family or one of these politicians, and you can quite easily see the eyes are the windows, I was going to say, to the soul, but these demonic things don't have exactly the same souls as us. They are the human. We are the gods and goddesses. We are the angels. If we are only allow ourselves to see this and to feel this, we are capable of far more than what we are led to believe, and we are being led down a wrong path by doing that. You've only got to look at these almost miraculous stories where somebody may be almost crushed under a car, and then a person will come along and they've suddenly found this superhuman strength. That is just an inkling of the potential, but of course it is all locked away for good reason, because the last thing you want is anybody to have this power unlocked from within them if they are self-serving. If you want to be malevolent, male of violence, fine. You've chosen completely the wrong path. If you want to be benevolent, be no violence, and not self-serving and serving others, that is the true meaning of being a god or being a king. And I'm not going to distinguish between male and female, because you all have the potential of being is real lights. If you allow the light inside you to grow, you are an is real light. You are not a Hebrew. You are not serving a male-dominated society. Words are often used as weapons, particularly in this day and age. You've got a whole nation in the Middle East with very narcissistic tendencies will throw out the call of anti-Semitism, but they are not even Semitic people themselves. It follows exactly the same pattern as a narcissist will do.